Howdy folks, thanks for tuning in. You know how some people like to focus on their problems? Well, I kind of like to ignore my problems. So that was kind of like my dental plan. But once upon a fateful day, I decided to eat a blueberry. Okay, so I have a pretty high tolerance for pain. I don't care. Do whatever you have to do. Just make it stop. I mean, I've got all these tattoos and I don't take pain medication. And I've had my face pierced like I don't know how many times. You know, if you take out a Monroe, that sucker will close up like that. Like that time I had a college dance performance, and for some reason we had a rehearsal at an off-campus studio, and the owner of the studio singled me out and was like,
dancers should not have tattoos and piercings. You should not stand out from the others.
And I'm like, isn't anyone gonna stick up for me here? And the day of the performance, my teacher was like, you need to take out your piercings. Is this gonna affect my grade point average? Of course I was OCD about maintaining a 4.0 GPA. And so I took it out. And of course that thing sealed right up. As if I was living under a vapor canopy or something. And so every time I took it out, I had to go get it re-pierced.
Again?
And that's why I have this beautiful scar on my face. So long story short, I have a high tolerance for pain. But dental pain is a whole nother ballgame. All it took was that one blueberry. Weirdly, 2 days before the appointment, the dang tooth stopped hurting. I think the root died or something. It's like some sort of divine mercy. So I knew the tooth was infected, so I decided to keep the appointment. And so I started the long drive across the bridge into Scientology land. Halfway across the bridge, I had a harrowing realization. Arrow! I left my emotional support dog at home. But as Marcus Aurelius would say, this is not a misfortune, but to bear this worthily is good fortune. You got this, Christina. So when I arrive at the dentist, they give me all this paperwork to sign about bone grafting or something. And I'm like, I don't want my bone grafted. That sounds terrible. So this nice lady, we'll call her Carol. She explained to me that they spin the blood and they take something out of it and they put it in the empty socket before they stitch it up, and it's supposed to help you heal better because it comes from your own avatar. So I signed my life away and I handed the paperwork back to the Star Trek girls at Mission Command. And then I went and stood by the window to gaze up at my last few moments of blue sky. Christina? So this nice Hungarian lady took me to the back and she told me that a lot of Hungarian people have my last name. Oh, that's because it's Slovak, which was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire before World War I. Actually, I just looked that part up. So she told me to make myself comfortable, and I just stood there, and she's like, you can have a seat. Oh, I'm comfortable standing. And then this other nice lady comes in. We'll just call her Madonna. And she says to me, oh, where do you work? I'm a pet sitter. Meanwhile, this nice fella, we'll just call him Lester. He's like prepping everything for surgery and laying out all these vials for drawing my blood out. And I'm like, how much blood do they need to take? But then I asked him, are you going to be able to tell me what blood type I am? Because apparently the elites like a certain blood type. And I have no idea what my blood type is. How do you not know what your blood type is? Anyway, Lester said no. So anyway, the longer it was taking him to set up, the more anxiety I was getting. And I was starting to think, you know, my tooth doesn't hurt anymore. And I know I signed all that paperwork. And I was starting to have second thoughts, and I'm like, maybe I can just make a run for it. And right as I was planning my escape, Dr. Carlson walks in. And she's like, how are you feeling? So I explained the situation to her, and I asked if it might be possible for her to work on the 2 teeth in the front corner because they were starting to hurt too, and they were turning all black and stuff. And well, let's take a look. So I sit down in the chair, and she looks in my mouth. Oh yes, we need to take care of these too. So she hands me the magnified side of a mirror, and I'm like, there's a hair on my chin. And Dr. Carlson yanks it right out. And I look over at Lester, and I'm like, she's an esthetician too. So she took care of those 2 teeth. But I had to come back a couple weeks later because my left eye was starting to feel funny, and I think the infection was like starting to spread, and I didn't want to lose an eye too. Although that might be a good look. Arrgh! Shiver me timbers! So it turned out that the tooth behind the infected one, it had a huge cavern. So it had to come out too. So poor Lester had to prep everything for the operation all over again and set up all those vials for drawing blood. And the phlebotomist comes in. We'll just call her Sherry. And she starts poking, 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 though my veins are rolling, 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 rolling aside. She said to make a fist and a socket in my wrist, my trusty arrow by my side. I had to hold so still for 5 vials to fill, waiting for the end of my plight. Pump it out, fill 'em up, pump it out, fill 'em up the vials. Draw it out, write it down, draw it out, draw it out, write it down, draw it out, my blood. Yeah, so Sherry had a hard time getting the blood out of me. And the blood she did get, you could actually see the fat in it. And she asked me what I had for dinner the night before, and I couldn't rightly recall. Then I remembered. I had worked on my neighbor's fence the day before, and she gave me a bag of donuts. I'm never eating donuts again! So the doctor comes in to do the operation, and she grabs the back tooth with a pair of pliers, which she calls tweezers, and I'm thinking, you can't tweeze a tooth. And she starts yanking, yanking, yanking. I'm hearing snaps and cracking. She says, just think about your ghost. But all that I'm thinking is being at the range and blinking, with my range friend Gray by my side.
You got this.
And she grabs, and she yanks, and I aim, and I fire! So next I need to get an IV, which takes like an hour. So Sherry comes in, and on my other arm, she starts poking, poking, poking. Again my veins are rolling, 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 rolling on the side. Again I made a fist, she stuck it in my wrist, wishing that I could be outside. She said, no, just relax. That's not in my syntax, and I pondered the meaning of my life. So Sherry said she was going to check on me every 5 minutes because sometimes the IV stops, and I'm like, that's annoying. I just want to be left alone. So she checked up on me twice, and then I guess she went to lunch because she didn't come back. And after a while, I'm like, this is taking forever. And I look up at the IV bag, and it's not even dripping. And I call out, Sherry? And then I look down at my arm, and and there's blood going back up into the tube. So I get up and I roll the IV rack to the doorway. Sherry? Hello? And no one's around. Anybody? Finally, I see this woman in a glass display case. So she goes to find Sherry, and Sherry comes back, and I'm like, got a little backwash going on here? And she sits me back down and she reassures me that everything is fine. So she gets the drip going again, and I'm sitting there trying to text my friend Jay with just the thumb of my left hand. And after what feels like a century, I look up at the IV bag, and the darn thing stopped again. So I grab the pole and I wheel it out to the hallway, and I'm like, Sherry! I mean, my goats were waiting for their lunch. So finally I get out of there with my post-op instructions. So I'm not supposed to run or lift anything over 10 pounds or bend over. Well, it's a good thing I did that long standing forward fold in the spaceship lobby before they called me to the back. Christina? Well, after 3 days of not lifting anything heavy, my muscles were starting to atrophy. So on the 4th day, I decided it's time to get back to work.
You are perfect. You look like exactly the character that I described to you.
Okay, so now we just have to worry about the acting. That's
Again, 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 again.
I think you're good.
Are you gonna say bang 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 right
Yeah,
now?
I'll say it just so you know. You know how some people like to focus on their problems? Like this fly?
I love you too.
It's too dark. Will this paper? Where's my shoulder pad? Oh yeah, that was good. Zebra, no, my tripod. Yeah, Charlie, what do you think about that?